So first thing first, a very good morning to everyone. Wait one sec. Someone's coming in. All right, first things first, I want to thank everyone for taking your time to come and join us this morning. Um, sorry, yeah. So I'm from Group 1. With me, we have Tanyu, Leo, Ian James Barr, and Ayman Rezwan working alongside with me on this project. Um, One sec. All right. So join with us today. We have a very special guest. He is a Taylor's alumni. He is now currently a content creative copywriter working at GREY Group Malaysia. Um, Today he'll be covering on some of the beginners guides and tips to advertising. Um, Before we go ahead and start, I would like to bring up a couple of reminders. During the talk, please make sure keep your mics muted to avoid any disturbance. If you do have any questions, please hold on. We'll have a short question and answer sessions at the end of this talk. So without further ado, Mr. Selva, floor is yours.
Thanks, Akib.
Well,
Hey guys, good morning, everyone. Yeah, so really, actually glad that you guys called me out or invited me to this. I really like talking to you guys and just like sharing stuff lah. Um, Over the weekend, we worked with Group One, kind of worked almost like an agency style. Kind of did a bit of a deck building thing to build this deck that we're going to present to you. So it's a bit quirky, but we had a bit of fun doing it lah. Let me just share my screen. Okay. Can you guys see?
yep, it's clear.
Okay. You see the Burning Man, right? You see net burning, isn't it? So basically, yeah, this is sort of I don't want to say it's like your go-to guide, but it's just somewhat of a guide of what advertising is all about. When I was in your stage at uni, I was as clueless to advertising as I am to today. Sorry. So it was nice during that moment when we had people from the industry coming in to kind of give us an idea of what the advertising industry is all about, and then kind of explain to us, or at least give us an understanding of what our roles could be in advertising, because there's so many roles and so many different people would have different kind of mindsets and different kind of career paths lah. I think that's something that we would like to kind of go through maybe today, and then later on we'll have answers and questions and answers. So a little bit about me. Yeah, I've just kind of summarized it on this deck, but let me verbalize it. Basically, I was actually a science student. I'm not sure how many of you guys came from that background, but I started off in science. I was a bit of a high achieving student, so I used to get like those top three, top five, that kind of kid lah. I was very academically driven when I was younger. So that happened for uni and high school and college. And what happened was, I think for those people who understand what it means to be from a, not say predominantly traditional Asian background, but to some extent you understand that security and stability is sort of the key like cornerstone for us lah. So it was hard for me to kind of explain to my parents that I am creatively inclined, because I can also see where they are coming from. They came from very, very humble beginnings and worked their way up. So I can see why they wanted me to go into science, just so that I would have that kind of stability. But it was never something I was passionate about. I just put myself through it. So I did that during high school and college, and I was lucky enough to get a seat in Melbourne University. And I was actually doing finance and economics, double major, nothing to do with advertising at all. It was during my time in Melbourne that it kind of opened up my world, my horizon, the way I saw things, the way I viewed things. And then I started to realize that I shouldn't be doing something for someone else or trying to do something that doesn't ultimately bring me happiness. That was where I think the biggest lesson I learned was about providing myself happiness, like self-care. So when I realized that since I was a kid, I was always that kid who wanted to not be the guy who created a product like an engineer, but I like the idea of telling you why you should get that product. And I never knew the term for that kind of job was called advertising. So when I knew that was what it was, and that was what creativity is all about, I told my parents like, look, don't waste your money on me anymore. They asked me to shift to creative in Melbourne, but I told like, don't waste your money anymore, because I firmly believed at that point of time that creativity does not require education. That was my mindset then. I was a young kid, didn't know much. So I came back to Malaysia. Then my parents, while they were trying to convince me to go back to Melbourne, I was like quite adamant and said, no, I don't want to. I just want to go work. I want to go into my industry and see what I can do. But they were like, no, you still should get a degree. Why don't you just get it locally? So at that point of time was when I said, okay, where should I go study locally? And I had a bunch of friends who were from Taylor's. And Taylor's was, like as everyone here knows, that mindset or happening place and everything. So I went there. But I'm very glad I chose Taylor's, because that 3 years there actually gave me a lot of insight to what my field was going to be. And me being in Taylor's is actually what helped me to be in my industry today. All of it, some of them were a series of coincidences, some were genuinely because of me being there. There's a reason why I also chose this picture here. This was taken right after last year's Kanchal Awards. Kanchal Awards is like Malaysia's advertising biggest award function lah. This was at the after party, and I used this picture because if you see the guys at the back, right? I purposely took this. This was like late in the night, like 2, 3 a.m. We're outside of the bar. All of these kids here are all Taylor students. Also from my batch. Some are from, like, she's my senior. These are my juniors. This guy is my batch. So all of us who started around the same time all ended up being in the same field, more or less, and kind of relatively achieved some decent level of success lah. So let's try to go through that lah. Over the last 2 years, I started my work in 2018 actually. Fun fact, what happened was I sat for my last paper in 2018, somewhere in July. The week after that was the Kanchal 2018. And where I interned was at BBDO. They told me to come over for the function, and maybe you'll get to bump to other people in the industry, and maybe you will find job opportunities. Coincidentally enough, my current boss for GREY, the chief creative officer, is Graham. I bumped into him in the after party. And then I bumped into him again in the after party. And that's how we got to talk to each other, got to know each other better. And then he asked me to come over for an interview. And then I started working. I finished my last paper lah. So I never really had a break. It was all just by pure luck, pure timing. But Taylor's had a lot to do with it. My internship experience had a lot to do with it. It's a lot to do with networking as well. So I started in 2018 September, and now here I am, like 2 years after that. In terms of my work or professional assignments, the first idea I ever came up with was actually Your Plastic Diet. I came up with this in my first month of work. What my boss would do is, like, every 2 weeks once or 3 weeks once, he will have this thing called YERG. It's YERG. It's basically gray spelled backwards. And what he would do is he'll just ask all of us to come up with ideas. Any kind of idea. He might give us a brief, or he might not give us any brief. It's just that if you have any kind of cool ideas you want to throw out, do it. Or sometimes we might have a client come in and client say, hey, we want to do this and that. If you guys have ideas, let us know. That was the same thing here. What happened was WWF globally issued out a brief, like an assignment lah. You will come across this term brief a lot during your time in the industry. Brief is basically an assignment, and that brief was, okay, we want to do this global campaign to stop plastic consumption, or at least plastic pollution, because it's probably one of the biggest source of environmental threat lah. And the idea isn't just to create awareness, because there's been so many campaigns that have already done that. Everyone here knows the negative or adverse effects of plastic, but what they wanted to do is to create some form of global change in terms of policy, in terms of government action. that was what they wanted to do, and they couldn't find a way to do it. So they issued out this global brief to literally almost most of the advertising agencies around the world. You had people from Australia, Europe, New York. It was around the world, like I think about 30, 40, 35 agencies were involved in this pitch. So he did this yerk session, my boss, and then he was like, hey, if anyone's got this idea, just throw out or present it. Lah. And the following week, I came across this article which showed about how they found plastic, microplastic in seafood, like your seashells, your oysters, and all of that. So then in my head, I was reading this. It was a research done by some university in, I think, Sweden or one of the Nordic countries. And I was thinking to myself, this is the amount of plastic they find in one single seashell, right, on average, or seafood. I asked myself, how much on average do humans eat, seafood in terms in a year? So if I do those calculation, right, okay, one seafood would have this amount of plastic, and the average person might eat maybe X amount of plastic, X amount of seafood a year. If I multiply both of them, I should be able to get the average number of plastic consumption per human a year. And I did. It was about 400 plus grams. And that value to me was a lot. 400 grams is about the weight of an iPad, or like a basketball ball. It's a lot, and to have that idea that it's inside us is kind of crazy. So I started to figure out how can I visually explain this to people, like this is the amount of plastic you're having inside of you. So my initial idea was like, okay, 400 grams a year, try to work with that. Then it didn't really have a strong connotation, because like items like iPads, basketballs, they are not, say, mass products. Not everyone would have an iPad, not everyone would have a basketball. Then I tried to personalize it. I tried to equate that amount to your human organs. Oh, your brain is more or less about 500 grams. How do if I did that? But then that also didn't work, because how can you see your brain? It's internal. People will not get that connection immediately. So as I was discussing with my boss, I was like, how can I bring this idea to life? He said, like, you have a strong value. Why don't you try to break it down to a value that's quote unquote digestible? Lah. So when I broke the value down, okay, if it's 400 grams a year, how much is it a month? How much is it a week? And when I got down to a week, that was when I stumbled across. That's where we hit the target, lah, like hit a gold mine. It's about 5 grams a week, which is equivalent to your credit card or any kind of plastic card you have in your wallet. And pretty much most people around the world have some form of plastic card with them, whether it's your ID, whether it's your credit card or something. That was what allowed us to win the global campaign. We went in with a similar kind of, but a very early prototype of this design, and we showed them the idea. They loved it. Because of that, that's how we got the brief, and then we launched it around the world. So this Your Plastic Diet has become the biggest campaign that WWF has done so far. This is the website that we have. When you guys are free, please by all means drop by and have a look. But what I wanted to show you guys is this, like, the website allows you to do this thing, what we call like a plastic calculator, where you can put your name in and basically find out wherever you're from. I'll just say I'm from Armenia, whatever, and then how much water you drink frequently, shellfish occasionally, beer occasionally, salt frequently. Next, do I breathe? Yes, I do. And this is the amount of plastic I've consumed. So basically, we worked with the University of Newcastle in Sydney to actually validate this mechanics, to find out exactly how much a person is consuming. And then we created a website and a calculator where people can do this. But the main idea of it is that once you find out how much plastic you consume, which is crazy, we wanted you to find a way to fix this issue. And so we thought you could easily sign a pledge, put in your email, your name, submit, and then put your voice in, and you will be a part of that 2 million. This is what really launched us a bit kind of crazy, because within the first 3 months or first 2 months of the campaign, we hit 1 million signatures. And now we're about to hit 2 million. To give you context, I'm not sure if you all have heard of Palau Pledge. Palau Pledge is considered to be, before the plastic diet, that was considered to be the biggest environmental campaign done so far. But even Palau Pledge, hang on. has only 348,000 pledges. We, on the other hand, are reaching 2 million right now. And we're about to do another campaign to celebrate that fact. We might be working with Armin van Buren. We don't know yet. We are still in talks, but we are really hoping that works. And then we can show you guys that as well. So yeah, this has actually led to now the US government actually creating a bill to actually stop the single-use plastic. It's called Break Free Against Plastic. Yeah. And if you read this bill, or the proper bill, you would notice that one of the first things that they talk about, if it's not here, it's the plastic that's in your basically the plastic that you consume lah. So this is what we wanted to do with the campaign, and it worked. And it all started because we used a very simple device that everyone can relate to. Then another campaign that I worked on was Volvo Green Planet. Now this is an ongoing campaign. We got the brief about 3 months ago, and when Volvo came to us and they asked how can we do this, so I suggested like, okay, the way to go green is to basically kind of revise whatever it is you do as a brand. Cars pretty much are one of the biggest pollutions in our planet, and if we can just tweak minor things about how we sell our cars or how our cars are marketed, we can reduce the amount of pollution insanely. So this is basically how it looks like. Using the learnings that we did for plastic diet, I kind of applied it here as well, because people like the idea of finding out how are they impacting the environment, or how the environment is impacting them. They like it when it's very personalized, because everyone has a different answer to it. So we created this thing called the carbon footprint calculator, and then basically you're able to calculate how much carbon you emit in a month and what you can do to reduce that. At the same time, Volvo, we tried to do other initiatives. One of it was called the Green Seats. So this was just a part of the idea of trying to reduce carbon emissions around the world and in Malaysia. And then this other one that I came up with was called Green Drive. So test drives actually contribute a lot to pollution. And the thing is, in a day, Volvo will be doing, just a single dealership alone will be doing anywhere between 10 to 20 test drives in a single day. The amount, the average kilometers they drive is about 5 to 10 kilometers. So you're looking at about 200 kilometers a day for just one dealership. Volvo's got about 20. So in a day, you're looking at about 4,000 kilometers driven. That amounts to X amount of carbon. Volvo has this feature inside their car where you can drive in pure mode, where it will just use the electric engine. So I said, why not just use your electric engine purely for the test drive? Since you can't travel far or fast anyways, you're only supposed to travel between 50 to 70 kilometers, you're in urban areas, you could use the pure mode and that would help your car. So they bought into this idea. Then of course we have the green test calculator where you can put in the values here and find out exactly how much carbon you emit. They liked the idea a fair bit, to the point where Volvo decided to spend money on a film. Now, this movie is something I just directed recently. It's not out yet, but we are able to show it to you before it comes out. So just don't screenshot lah. Just see it. Then later on when we have Q&A, do give me your feedback on this. Let me know if you can't hear the noise because it's on Mac. Okay, I'm not sure what's happening, but I'll try to share it to you guys once the video comes out. Then I'm not sure what's the issue now. But yeah, this was fun because we shot this during the COVID, just like a month ago, and it was nice. Like we went down to Perlis, we went to Genting to shoot this. It was like a 5-day shoot. Had a lot of fun doing it. It was a bit also worrying lah because of the lockdown and everyone didn't want to get COVID. The next one was before we go to Carlsberg LFC, it was the keg. So everyone knows, right, during during the lockdown, severe shutdowns of businesses and loss in profits. Businesses were closing, bars were closing down, and Carlsberg is one of our global clients. So they came to us and like told us, look, because bars are being closed, so our beer sales, and that's affecting our end line lah. What can we do to make sure that beer consumption is still being continued? We had this thought actually last year before there was any kind of COVID lockdown or any kind of issue. The idea was actually we wanted to create a beer wallet, a wallet that allows you. It's just imagine you like your Grab Pay, imagine like your Touch and Go thing, or any of these e-wallets you have now. We wanted to create a version of that for beer because no one has done it yet. The idea was that you can't go in with 10 pints or 20 pints, it's not enough. You need to come up with a big volume. So normally in bars, the scale they use in large terms is kegs. They will sell to a bar 10, 20, 30, 50 kegs, 100 kegs. So we thought we'd use that. And imagine if you could buy an entire keg. And now that keg, you and your friends could share it around. Let's say I want to share it to Akib. I will just forward him a message. And now he's got like 5 pints of beers with him. He can go to any Carlsberg bar and redeem that 5 pints. And then let's say if Akib, let's say, owes me $50, instead of paying me $50, he can give me another 5 pints. That was the initial idea. And as we were going to do it, these kind of things take a long time because they have got apps, you got to do beta testing and stuff like that. Lockdown happened. And when lockdown happened, this idea went from a Malaysian idea to a global idea because the global marketing or brand director for Carlsberg, Julian Marsili, he was like, we need to do something for consumers during the lockdown. Every country is having the same issue. And when he came across our idea like this, he said, like, let's make it global. And so we immediately launched it faster than we were supposed to. We launched it first at Denmark, and this is the video that we shot to do it.
Right now in your local bar, there's a lonely little keg. Hello? Where did everybody go? Come back. We can't, little keg. We're staying home for a good reason, but we won't forget you. Carlsberg presents Adopt a Keg. Fill your very own keg with the beer you're drinking at home and help bars come back stronger. Can we drink today like there is a tomorrow? Probably.
Yeah, so that was a lot of challenges were involved because we were shooting this at during lockdown. So none of us were able to actually go down to the location. This was shot in Denmark somehow. So we had to do everything through video calls like this lah. Directors will show us the footage and then we would comment immediately and then they would tweak it. Even the post-production where we were doing the editing also was a bit complicated, but we managed to pull it off. And this got launched around the world. We got launched it in Denmark first, then Malaysia, Singapore, Australia, if I'm not wrong, Thailand as well. And this is merely just our first phase. The response was really good. They actually generated revenue in the millions. And so that's why we are now evolving this Adopt a Keg to something even bigger. This new thing, it's going to be more of, think of loyalty programs, think of AirAsia Big Points, something like that, but on a bigger scale. But we are working on it now, and that's something we will be able to kind of show to the world next year lah. And that all started because of one idea of trying to create a beer wallet. Any beer drinker here will understand why having a beer wallet is very important. So we just use that as an insight to do it. Volvo Safe Pledge, it was a very simple, straightforward idea. These two ideas here, right, are actually driven because of COVID. So Safe Pledge happened during Ramadan, and what happened was clients came to us and said, like, every year for Ramadan or Hari Raya, we always do something big. But then this year we were not able to do it because of the lockdown. Everyone's at home. So they still said, like, we still need to do something. We still need to, wish people and do something for the community. What can we do? How I came up with this idea, right, was coincidentally, a day or two before I got the brief from the clients, I went out to go get food. This is right about the time when Ramadan was about to start. So I found out how difficult it was for Muslim people to go and have food and how dangerous it was. Because this is a time when the virus was still here. This was what, April, end of April, early May. No matter what, at about 6 o'clock or whatever it is, Muslims have to go out to restaurants to sit down and wait to break their fast. And I thought that was a huge threat to their safety because that time you're supposed to have social distancing, but they have no choice. They are fasting for an entire day. Now they have to eat. And so they have to go out. Sometimes they might not be able to cook, they're working or whatever it is, but now they have to go out to eat. And lagi-lagi pun because of the fact that all these groceries and stuff were in limited runs, it was long queues. It's really hard to ask someone who is fasting the entire day to wait 1 hour just to get into a grocery mall, get the stuff, and go back home and cook for another hour. So they would rather just go out, eat. But it was just posing a threat to their safety. So I said, what can Volvo do? How can Volvo's main thing has always been about safety, right? Everyone who knows a Volvo knows that, oh, the first thing comes to mind is the safest car because it's built in such a way. How can we communicate safety without even using the car? So I said to myself, well, why not create Volvo Safe Pledge? It's very simple. You could go choose to eat outside, or you could also grab food. What's the difference between the both? Grab food, I need to pay more. I have to pay for delivery. I will also have to pay an additional premium on the price. Just so you know, most Grab food, right? The price that they put on the Grab food is slightly higher than the price you would get when you go to their restaurant. That's just what they do to combat the commission they have to give to Grab lah. But I asked myself, what if Volvo could help negate that whole extra cost, whether it's delivery, whether it's the extra price to pay also, so that people don't have to go out and eat. They can eat within the vicinity of their home. Then we came out with this Volvo Safe Pledge. Just have to, there is a template that we provided to people. It was just pictures like this. All you had to do was, we put this up on our social media channels, we put it on our website. You could download it, you can screenshot it, and then you just repost it on your Insta story or in your Instagram post. And you tag us Volvo with the hashtag My Volvo Safe Pledge. And every day, the first 200 would get a discount promo code from Grab. That you just have to put in the promo code and then you will get a severe discount on all your food. This campaign went really quick and fast because within the first 3-4 days, we had about 30,000 people using our pledge. So it worked like we kind of were able to showcase safety without touching safety. Same thing with LFC. LFC is a continuation of the CAC in a way. What happened was Carlsberg is the biggest sponsor of Liverpool. They wanted to celebrate the fact that they've won, so they've released these cans. While they're releasing these cans, I told to myself, like, wouldn't it be cool if we could also turn the CAC rate since everyone's adopting it? Why not do one to shout out to the Liverpool fans? And so we came up with this. So yeah, came up with this idea, and this idea was like a very spur of the moment idea. We did it within a day. I shared the idea to my boss. My boss said he liked it, so he said flash out the idea. End of that day, we sent it to Carlsberg Global. The next day morning, we got an approval from them. It's like, hey guys, let's work with it. And then I was fortunate enough to get to work with Liverpool. So they sent me all their stuff. Then I got to work with one of their, like, not directly, but indirectly, I got to work who then relay that message to Klopp, and then Klopp would come back to me with that message, like through that one person. I think her name is like the brand director for Liverpool. It was really exciting for me lah, as a football fan. Basically, yeah, we just turned the CAC rate, and that helped the CAC thing go even to another level because a lot of football fans and they wanted to celebrate that idea lah. So yeah, these are like sort of the bunch of works I've done over the last 2 years, just to give you an understanding of how the thought works. Hope it didn't drag too long. Now to the point of why we're here, what we're doing. What is exactly advertising? This is just a small joke. Oh, it's like super cool. It's super pretentious. A lot of us fall into this trap sometimes about glorifying advertising, and people who glorify advertising unnecessarily, you end up creating work like this because you're so engrossed in your own cocoon. You're so superfluous to the point where you sometimes don't even realize the kind of mistakes you do. Like when this came out, everybody, obviously made jokes about it because this is what they thought it was. That's the kind of thing people think about advertising. But advertising is, simply put, the middle line between logic and creativity. I personally like to call it commercial creativity. You're supposed to be creative, but you're given guidelines to be creative. The parameters are very simple. At all times, it's to sell a product that the client has, it's to solve a problem that the client has, or it's to build a brand that a client has. It's always that. Interns will always come sometimes and ask like, bro, I really want to be very creative, but the advertising world is not fully creative. There's still limitations. I said, if you want to be creative purely on a creative standpoint, and I'm sure a lot of you here want to be that as well. If that's the case, you're better off being an artist. Advertising is more about being creative in a specific manner. You're trying to help sell a person's product. So that's your limitation. You're not trying to sell an artwork or your own thought. No, you're selling a client's thought. How you go about selling that thought or what the client wants to sell is advertising. That's where your creativity comes in. So you need to have a balance of both, I would believe. A lot of people who are very focused on their craft sometimes focus too much on the craft, too much on the visual, too much on the copy, too much on the creativity behind it, that they forget what was the objective of that campaign. What's the main purpose of it? It's not to make that thing look extremely good like nobody has seen it before. At the end of the day, you're supposed to sell that product. What do you do in advertising? This was a question I only found out literally in my my last year of studying, and I'm glad I found it out through tailors lah. Similar to this kind of situation. When BBDO was still open, I went to this uni friends, all tailors kids and everything. We went to this Kamatan party, and I bumped across. Actually, not I bumped across, like one of my friends. She introduced me to her friend's boyfriend who was in the industry, and we got to talking. And he said, "Okay, why don't you come interning?" And when I went to intern, that's when I realized advertising is made out of like 4 main pillars, basically. I mean, well, 3 main pillars, but one of them breaks down now. You've got creative. Creative is your art and copy. So some of you will do art, some of you will do copy. Then you've got the planning or strategy department. And then the other one is client servicing. So how it works is very simple. This is the process. Imagine I'm the client right now. I've got a product I want to sell. Say I'm Nike. I've got a brand new pair of Tiempos that I want to sell. I don't know how to do it. So first thing I do is I'll engage an agency. The first person who will ever reach out to me, the first person I'll ever meet, it will be someone from the client servicing side, or what we call is suits. They will be the one that the point of contact, and they will try to find out from me as the client, what is it is my issue, what is it I want to do with my product, what is the problem that we want to solve here. They'll get all the necessary information that is required, and they will try to structure a brief. They try to create this brief. During creating the brief is where planning comes into the picture. You can't do an idea or a campaign without having enough amount of research, and there is no such thing as enough research. You need to get as much information, as much insights as you can get, so you can develop ideas that actually make sense, that are validated. That's where planning comes in. They will spend a good week or so just trying to get all kinds of information. If it's about shoes, okay, what kind of shoe is that Tiempo? What market does it follow? Who are the kind of people who would buy a Tiempo? They would figure out all kinds of information, so that once they've got all the information, they'll add it into the brief, then they will give it to the creative people. Now as creatives, you have an idea already. Okay, this is what the product is all about. This is the information related to the product. How can I go about using those information to come up with an idea? Art and copy, pretty much they go hand in hand. There's no one is better than the other or whatever it is. You are yin and yang. One cannot survive without the other. And how you work together is what allows you to come up with really decent work. So I'm sure that people here are art, other people here in copy. There will be things that one of you can do more than the other. Don't let that be a discouraging point. You just need to focus on what makes you really good, or what makes your services required more so than the other person. Now, just to give you all a bit of, I've kind of explained already what advertising is all about, what the industry is all about. What's happening right now in the advertising industry? There's a joke that we're doing ever since March. A recurring joke was that what has triggered the joke goes like about what has triggered the digital transformation in your agency, and the answer is COVID-19. Pretty much, COVID has changed everything we do in the industry. It has changed the way our clients operate, and ultimately, that has changed the way we operate. Because you must understand, right? Advertising is actually one of the least in the list of hierarchies or priorities, right? It's one of the lower ranking ones. When a company is doing well, their marketing is great, their profits are good, and everything else is great about the brand, then is when they will start to consider spending that extra money on other things after they've kind of focused on the necessary bits. That's when they go to external, which is advertising. The industry was in a bit of a shock when this happened. In fact, two big industries have kind of closed shop during this thing. Wonderman Thompson has closed down. BBDO closed down. Both did happen in February, end of February, early March. They were struggling before. That's also mainly because they weren't able to adapt to the digital era. But when the lockdown happened, it just put the nail in the coffin because they didn't know how to operate in a digital sphere. And that's something I feel a lot of you guys coming into the industry, it may seem gloomy, but it's not. There's still job opportunities out there. People are still being hired. But please be aware the game is purely digital. You need to figure that out first before you can come into the industry so you can survive. We've been working pretty much at home for the last 6-7 months, and all these major ideas you see that came here, right? Like Green Planet, LFC, Pledge, and Cake all happened during the lockdown period. So I would say that creativity doesn't need a space, it just needs to happen. There's so many platforms you can use to do it. A majority of our works happen on the social media space, online, because you can't do any on ground stuff anymore. The last 6-7 months we can't create a event, we can't create a kind of thing or structure, that landmark that people can come and see. Everything happens digitally, but it actually has ended up creating more effective campaigns than before, because now we're reaching out directly to the people. We understand their user, how they would think, what they're doing, and that would be it. I would certainly say that we should be prepared. A lot of things in the industry is going to shock you when you come in, but there's nothing to be afraid of. It's no different from you going from college to uni or high school to college. It's a new environment. There may be more dramas than before, there may be more politics than before, but just have a level-headed mindset, and you should be able to stay clear of any kind of issues, and you will actually go on to succeed. This is another thing I would sincerely also say. I've only have 2 years in this industry. I don't have a lot of years in the industry, but I've managed to get some acclamation. It's not because I'm better or other people or no, it's not that. It's just that I put in more effort than some people do in this industry. That is as simple as that. Many people fail to realize that. They think you need to be like super creative or what. No, sometimes it's just spending an extra hour with that work, and that provides you a lot more. The Your Plastic Diet will maybe my biggest work I've ever done in my career, but it only happened because I was willing to take that extra hour to go read up on plastic, and that's how I came up with the idea. Had I chose not to do that, I wouldn't have thought of that idea lah. And all of this will pay off. This is gonna look like a bit of a macam shock sendiri thing, but I want to show you guys this. This was done by Campaign Brief Asia, where they wanted to. This is my boss, by the way. This is the guy who hired me. But basically, we got Agency of the Year this year, and it was predominantly to do with our WWF campaign. That was what pushed us up, and what enabled me to then. What that translated was me then being number 13 in Malaysia's hottest creatives lah. Last least not important fact was that in this entire list, I'm the only guy whose work comes from solely from this year. What they do is they tally all of your work, all your campaign, how much award it has won, and they put it together and rank you. Everyone else here has had their ranking for the last 3 to 4 years. I'm the only guy whose award ranking is purely from this. So my point is that I'm a nobody. I still have lots to learn in this industry. But if you put in just a bit more effort, you can honestly do a lot. I think a lot of people oversee that fact lah. So try to put in that effort, and I think you will go a long way. Now, enough of yapping. Questions or anything lah?
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Salva, for some of the insightful tips and experiences. Most of the campaigns that you worked on, they were really amazing, especially that most of them happened during this pandemic era. So they were really amazing. So now we'll go ahead and proceed with question and answers. So if anyone has a question, please type it down. I can help y'all read the questions. By the way, just now, Miss Z did ask a question. She asked, "What were your inspirations for these campaigns? They are amazing."
Oh, okay. Which campaign specifically, or any?
I think she meant
Um,
all of the, yeah, go ahead.
Plastic.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. It's the plastic diet. I think you pretty much kind of explained it throughout the presentation, the plastic diet, and also Volvo and also Carlsberg. But in general, as a copywriter,
Oh, okay.
sorry. Hi, Selva. By the way,
Hi.
right? Long time no see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, is this Miss Leila? No, no.
Miss
Sorry,
Z lah.
Z.
Miss Z. Yeah.
Hi, Miss.
Hi. That's right. I asked
Hi.
Miss Leila to join, but I don't know she managed to or not. But yeah, well, as you mentioned, you're pretty new, and there's you only have 2 years. And this is very inspiring for our students. As like a major part, I think a lot of people, yeah, you are as a copywriter, kan? And then a lot of people kind of when they hear big campaigns say, oh, it's the creative director and so on and so forth. I mean, a lot of people don't see the role of the copywriter here. I mean, as a copywriter, how do you inspire your team, and then basically what got you inspired? So I mean, how would you make yourself as a important role in that team, so sajalah, motivate our young students here, so if they can fill up your shoes in the future. So as a copywriter, what do you think was the main drive, other than you mentioned that you put in a lot of hours and so on? What else? Reading, is it reading, is it reference to pop culture, is it, so maybe you can share with us.
Oh yeah, for sure. Thanks, Miss Z.
Yeah, sure. Always a pleasure to see you again.
Yeah. um, Basically, actually, if you ask me, right, I would say is that I had a drive. So I hope any of my things I say doesn't come off as a bit some shots in DD, but the fact is actually I had a lot of drive. Maybe I was always a driven person as a kid. I always wanted to succeed. I always wanted to, and I'm sure all of you guys here have ambition as well, like that, want to succeed. So I was willing to put the necessary effort, because for me, in the back of my head, is like I want to be somebody. I want to be somebody that people can know of, or can talk about, but in a good way lah. Like, I want to contribute or bring something to this world. That's always been sort of my mindset since I was a kid. So in these kind of situations, that motivation is very intrinsic. It's that drive that you want to succeed, you want to make your family proud, you want to make yourself proud. That was what drove me. But I also understood during especially our last 1 year in uni and this, and even in working life, I realized that not everyone will share that same amount, same motivation or same enthusiasm towards the work, because they have different kinds of motivation or objectives in their life. Some people see advertising as just a means to an end. Some see it as a bridge to uh, another career. So for those people, I will say do your thing, because you have an ambition to go there. Advertising is not. But if advertising is truly your calling, like how I feel it is for me, I say you cannot see it as work anymore. That's the key thing I will say to people, is that don't view advertising as work. It's part of your life now. Like athletes don't see the great athletes, right? Never see their sports as a work that they go to. They see it as part of their life. So even when they're not performing, they're at home, they're working out. When they're at the gym, they're always doing something to prep themselves. So I kind of do that maybe. I like listening to podcasts. I like keeping myself updated with what's happening around the world. I like to read, as you said. That helped. But that's all on the IQ side. Emotionally, or the EQ part, is that ego. People like who are very driven, including myself, it's very easy to let ourselves be succumbed by ego. That was one of the biggest things I learned when I before I got to the industry, and I'm very fortunate. Is that I realized if I had my ego and I just splattered it all over everywhere because I wanted to succeed, then I wasn't going to get any work done at all. In fact, you're going to alienate people by doing that. So putting your ego in check. I'm not asking to not to remove it entirely, but keeping it in check, working as a team is honestly going to let you be very successful. Lah. I hope that answers.
Sure. Thanks so much, Selva, and I hope we can see you again in the future. So I'll just give way to any other students. Thank you, Akib. Sorry, Kachao, with
Oh,
the
no
question
problem.
and
Thank you,
Q&A.
Viz.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ms.
Hi,
Z.
Selva.
Bye.
All right, we have a few questions on the chat. Mark Howen asks, does GREY Group provide any internship opportunities?
Yes, they do.
All right, just slide in, Mark. You know
Yeah.
what to do.
Yeah.
Um,
Just drop
Tanyu,
me an email lah,
yeah.
and I'll forward your CV to our HR. In fact, one of our juniors, Miss Z, you might know. Zinyi, actually, she was from Miss Leila's class. I last,
Yes, yes.
yeah, last year I came for I think a talk. Then just about a month back, she dropped me a message on LinkedIn, and coincidentally, we had an opening, so we forwarded her this thing. Like she might be coming in for an interview. So yeah, like you guys are interested, just let me know lah.
Great. All right. One question from Tanyu. What do you think about the advertising industry in the next 5 years or after this COVID?
The game has changed for sure, for sure. I don't think we'll go back. We might to some extent go back to the traditional media landscape, but I think it's changed predominantly already. Like now, it's everyone's behavior is like if you all notice, right, it revolves around your digital devices. You want to go out also, you need your phone to scan. Um, More people order food now. When we work with Grab for the whole Safe Pledge thing, they gave us a lot of insights. Their user consumption rate has increased by X amount of percent, so much more than before. Now we are so much more used to ordering stuff online, just because the last 6 7 months. My parents canceled the Astro and are only using Amazon Prime and Netflix now. My parents who are like in their 50s, so everything is going to go digital for sure. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't see us going back again. Yeah.
All right. That actually leads up to my personal question. I was gonna ask if is do you think traditional advertising is still relevant? And if you do think so, like in what ways would it be relevant with the current situation right now?
Mm, when you mean traditional media, you mean the two main things like radio. I mean, sorry, print, like newspaper and TV, right?
Print, billboard, all of that. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Okay. If I just take this last 6 months alone, yes, all traditional media have basically taken a second seat. Billboards also, but in general, not including COVID, like just in general, in terms, they still play a part. They still have an impact because you have to understand that in Malaysia, we have a very large B40 community, and a lot of them may not have access to digital platforms lah.
Mm.
But this is I'm speaking about when I talk about the B40, I'm talking about those who are 40 and above. Those younger all have access, are somewhat media savvy. In fact, more people have access to a phone than they have to TVs. But they still play a role, but that role is diminishing as the months go by.
All right.
Because I could shoot the same film and release that film on YouTube without having to spend like 200,000 just to put it up on TV, right? And I'll get more
Mhm.
people watching it. So, yeah.
True. All right. Thank you so much. Is there any other questions? You guys can just type it in if you guys don't want to talk. Yeah. Any questions, guys? Don't be shy.
Guys, I feel you. I understand.
Sorry, just one last question,
Yeah.
Selva.
Yeah.
Yeah. What projects do you have in the pipeline? I mean,
Uh,
the next few months,
uh,
considering COVID and everything. Yeah.
yeah. So the next one is going to be, actually there's a few. There is one that is with Volvo. I'm not allowed to divulge on it yet, lah. But it has got something to do with more or less creating the world's first carbon-free lineup, car lineup. Like there is something to do with carbon emissions. It's an evolution of our. A lot of it is actually an evolution of the project from. So like Green Planet, something from this while working on this campaign, I came up with another idea, but I'm not allowed to divulge in it yet, lah. I probably feel will be on the scale of your plastic diet. Works out. The other one that we are currently working on is the evolution of the keg. So it's creating that e-wallet, but for beers, lah. Those two are the major ones. Then the others are the usual Deepavali, and there's another one we're doing for Maybank. But all these things is a bit hard to go into in details. Maybe the Maybank one I can say it's something we're trying to create for all Malaysians, lah. Um, I can't divulge so much more. I'm so sorry. I really want to say more, but I don't think I'm allowed to say. How can I answer?
It's okay. No worries.
Yeah.
Um, okay, I think that should be it. We have no more questions. Thank you again for joining us, for agreeing to do this with us. It's been fun. I've learned a lot from you. I hope everybody did as well. So for the rest, I will share the link to the survey form. But Ms. Selva, you may leave now if you want. So again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Dr. Izudin. Thanks, Ms. D. Thanks, guys.
Right.
Have a good year ahead. See you guys soon, hopefully.
All right.
Thanks,
See you.
Selva.
Thank you.
All right. I'm gonna paste the link to the survey form on the chat. Once you guys are done, you guys may leave. Thank you guys for joining us today. Really appreciate it for your time. Once you guys are done with the survey, you guys may leave, right? We're gonna close this call in about 5 minutes. Sir. Never mind. I don't think he's here. Okay. I guess we all can just leave.
Okay. I'm not sure still here though or not.
Cool. What?
So no,
Yeah.
he's offline.
Yeah. It's okay. You can leave. Okay. See you guys.
Right.
Ciao.
Okay.